Welcome, dear viewers. Before we begin, kindly subscribe for more true stories. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from and how your day has been. Now settle in. This one's unforgettable. They laughed when she whispered it. It hurts when I sit. Thought it was teenage drama, but I saw it. The way her eyes searched for someone to notice, to believe. I was just the grandmother, the one who baked, who babysat, who stayed quiet, until the day I didn't, until I saw what no one else dared to see, and stepped between his hand and her body. The house smelled like cinnamon, poultry fat, and something fried. It was supposed to smell like family, like comfort. I stood at the edge of the kitchen, my hand on the counter for balance, watching Sarah swirl around the stovetop with the confidence of someone who thought motherhood was performance art. Tom sat in the living room with the TV on low, pretending not to supervise her every move. The turkey was already carved, sweet potato casserole bubbling, and something green that no one would touch had just come out of the oven. Thanksgiving, a full table. Every chair filled, except one, which had a booster seat strapped to it. That was for Jacob, 8 years old and somehow already cynical. Lily, 14, sat closest to the wall. Quiet, too quiet. I'd arrived the day before with a pie wrapped in 2 layers of foil and the cardigan I only wear for holidays. I didn't bring much, arthritis doesn't like lifting, but I brought my full self, or what's left of it. Sarah had called a week earlier and said, "It'd be great if you could come early, Mom. You know how chaotic the prep is." No question in that sentence. Just a need dressed up like a suggestion. I said yes. Of course I did. I always say yes. We gathered around the table at 4, Tom slicing the turkey like he was performing surgery, Lily passing dishes without a word, and Jacob making the usual noises kids make when they're hyped up on sugar and screen time. I sat across from Lily. She didn't touch her cranberry sauce. Her hair looked freshly washed, but not brushed. She didn't meet anyone's eye. Then it happened. She leaned toward me, just enough that I could feel her breath on my sleeve, and whispered, "It hurts when I sit." I blinked. "What, honey?" She didn't repeat it, just looked down. Her fork trembled in her hand. No one else noticed. Tom was pouring wine for Sarah, who laughed too loud at something he said about dry meat. The TV was still murmuring in the next room, some game on mute, as if the living room couldn't bear to miss out on being the center of attention. "She says that about everything," Tom chuckled suddenly. "Yesterday it was her neck, last week her feet. She'll outgrow her drama phase." The table laughed, not loud, not cruel, but enough to fill the space where concern should have been. Sarah rolled her eyes and passed me the mashed potatoes. "She's always sore somewhere. Part of growing, right?" I smiled politely, that default grandmother smile. The one that says I'm still useful, still agreeable. But I was looking at Lily. Her eyes weren't wet. They were dry in a way that worried me more. Like she'd run out of permission to cry. Jacob told a joke about a turkey and a raccoon. No one really listened. Tom raised his glass. "To family," he said, like it was a command. We clinked. I sipped. The wine tasted expensive and cold. Lily didn't raise her glass. After dinner, while everyone lounged in the living room, Tom with his beer, Sarah scrolling through her phone, Jacob building some elaborate tower with plastic bricks, I found Lily in the laundry room. She sat on the washing machine like it was a lifeboat, her knees pulled up, arms wrapped tight. I didn't startle her. She looked up like she expected someone eventually. I didn't ask anything, just stood there, close enough to let her know she wasn't alone. "Are you okay, baby?" I finally said. She shrugged, a gesture so small it barely counted. "I'm fine." That word, fine, it's a smokescreen. I used it for years. Her eyes flicked toward the hallway, then back to me. "Don't say anything, please." She didn't wait for a reply, just slid off the machine and disappeared into her room like a shadow learning how to walk. Later, I sat in the guest room, my knees wrapped in a heating pad, the buzz of the pad filling the silence. I could hear footsteps upstairs, Sarah's laugh again, a door closing, and then nothing. The quiet settled over the house like a film. I thought about what Lily had said and how no one, not one person, had asked her to explain, as if the discomfort of hearing her pain was worse than her living with it. I remembered what it was like being 14, being unheard, and I remembered the first time I said nothing when I should have said something. I told myself I would watch, closely, not interfere, not yet, just watch. Because sometimes watching is the only power you're allowed, until it's not. The house was quiet the next morning, too quiet for a holiday weekend with kids in it. I creaked out of bed, pulled my cardigan tight, and shuffled into the kitchen. Tom's voice echoed faintly from somewhere upstairs, sharp, clipped, giving instructions no one had asked for. Sarah was already dressed, her keys jingling like wind chimes with a hangover. "We're heading to Costco," she said without a good morning. "You don't mind keeping an eye on them, right?" I smiled. Not yes, not no. Just that same polite grandmother face I've perfected over the years. She took it as agreement, of course, kissed the air somewhere near my shoulder, and left with Tom, the door slamming like punctuation. I found Lily in the living room, curled into the corner of the couch with her knees hugged to her chest, a blanket over her like armor. Her eyes flicked to mine. "They're gone?" she asked, voice low. I nodded. She didn't wait, just stood and walked toward her room without another word, leaving a trail of silence behind her. I followed a few minutes later, knocking gently before pushing the door open. Her room was dim, blinds half drawn, the air heavy with that teenage smell. Detergent trying to cover something less sweet. She sat cross-legged on the floor, a sketch pad in her lap. She was erasing something furiously. "Brought you some tea," I said, placing the cup on her nightstand. She didn't look up. "What are you drawing?" "Nothing. May I see?" She hesitated. Then, almost defiantly, she pushed the sketch pad toward me. "Whatever. Just don't tell." I sat down slowly on the edge of her bed, knees complaining. The first drawing hit me like a cold slap. A girl crouched in the corner of a room, her arms shielding her head. A tall figure stood over her, hand raised, face blank. No eyes, just a mouth, open, shouting. The second was worse. Same girl, same corner. But now there were two shadows, one looming, the other watching from the doorway. Silent, passive. My fingers tightened around the paper's edge. The graphite was smudged in places, not from carelessness, but from too many redraws. This wasn't imagination. This was memory. "This is how you feel?" I asked quietly. Lily didn't answer. She stared at the floor. Sweetheart. She jerked the pad back, clutching it to her chest. I said, don't tell. I won't, I said, though something in me recoiled at the promise. But you need to know this isn't okay. I know, she whispered. But if I talk, it gets worse. My breath caught. Has Tom ever hit you? Her lips pressed into a flat line. Not when anyone's looking. My heart stumbled. And your mother? Lily looked at me then, really looked. She says I exaggerate, that I provoke him. She says he works hard. Don't start. My mouth was dry. I reached for the tea, only to realize I'd left it untouched on the nightstand. My hands were shaking now. Why didn't you say anything before? Because everyone thinks I'm just moody, she said. Teenage stuff, hormones, but it's not that. I know the difference. The weight of her words sat on my chest like a brick. I wanted to scream, to storm upstairs, pack her things, and drive away with her. But I didn't. I sat very still, my palms flat on my lap. I believe you, I said. She nodded once, then her head dropped to her knees, and I let the silence settle around us like a fragile peace treaty. Later, when the garage door rumbled open and the front door slammed again, Lily slipped back under her blanket on the couch like nothing had happened. Sarah called out, "Mom, we got that granola you like." Her voice was bright, fake cheerful, like a TV anchor hiding bad news behind a smile. I stepped into the kitchen. "How was Costco?" I asked flatly. Tom grunted. Sarah unloaded bags. "Busy. Jacob almost knocked over a display, but we survived." "Did Lily behave?" "She was quiet," I said. Tom rolled his eyes. "That's her thing now. Sulk and sigh and act like the world's ending." I looked at him then, really looked. The way he stood, big, entitled, loud without raising his voice. He didn't see me as a threat, just a piece of background. Grandma with the tea and the quiet hands. Good. Let him think that. That night, in my guest room, I wrote down everything I remembered from our talk. Every word, every drawing, every look. I dated the page, folded it, slipped it into my suitcase. Then I stared at the ceiling for a long time, my heart thudding like a warning bell. They thought I came here to help with the cooking. They had no idea I was paying attention. The next morning, the air was colder. Not outside, inside, in the spaces between us. I could feel it at breakfast, where no one spoke, except for Jacob, chattering about Minecraft and trying to get anyone to look at a pixelated dragon on his tablet. Tom nodded without listening. Sarah scrolled through her phone. Lily didn't come down. "She's not hungry," Sarah said, barely looking up. "She's been skipping meals again." Teenage angst. Tom smirked. "She thinks starving herself makes her interesting." I looked at him, long enough that he finally glanced up. "You know, not eating is usually a sign," I said, my voice light but pointed. He raised an eyebrow. "A sign of what, Mom? Wanting attention?" I held his gaze, didn't blink. Or maybe of something being deeply wrong. He chuckled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "God, not you too. She's got everyone wrapped around her finger lately. Ever since Sarah told her she couldn't dye her hair purple, it's been nonstop attitude." "She's scared of you," I said, still calm. The room went still. Even Jacob paused his game. Sarah finally looked up. "Mom, please, don't start," I smiled. the kind that meant I was done being polite. "Oh, I haven't started." Tom stood up, chair scraping the floor. "You know what's really harmful?" Undermining a parent in their own house, I stood too. My knees hurt, but I didn't show it. "And you know what's dangerous?" Being too proud to ask why your child flinches when you walk into the room. His jaw clenched. Sarah's face flushed. "That's enough," she snapped. "You don't get to come here and accuse us." "I haven't accused anyone," I said softly. "Not yet." Lily didn't come out of her room for the rest of the day. I knocked once, brought her a sandwich. She opened the door just wide enough to take the plate and whispered, "Thank you." Her eyes were red. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat by the window in the guest room, the cold seeping through the pane. I remembered when Sarah was Lily's age. She used to climb into my bed when she had nightmares. I'd hold her and hum softly until her breathing slowed. Somewhere along the way, she'd built a wall around herself, polished it with words like stability, discipline, structure. But I remembered the cracks in her foundation. Mid-morning the next day, I was folding laundry when I heard raised voices from upstairs. Then a sharp sound, not a slap, not yet, just something heavy hitting something soft. I moved fast as these old legs could. I reached the top of the stairs in time to hear Tom growl, "You want to try that again?" "No," Lily's voice barely audible. I said I didn't mean to. "You always say that," he snapped, "but somehow things keep ending up broken." I turned the corner. Tom stood at the threshold of Lily's room, his body filling the frame. One of her books was on the floor, pages torn, spine twisted. She was in the corner again, that same corner I'd seen in her drawings. He didn't see me yet. "You think you're the victim?" he said, voice low, threatening. "You don't even know what that means." I didn't think. I just moved. "Tom," I said, and he spun around. "Step away from her." His eyes widened. "Jesus, Mom, what are you—" I said step away. He stared at me like I'd grown another head. "She broke my mother's vase." "She's a child," I said. "You're a grown man yelling down at a girl who's scared out of her skin." Sarah appeared behind me. "What's going on?" Her voice was weary, like we'd woken her from a long nap. "Ask your husband," I said, never taking my eyes off him. "Ask your daughter why she won't sit comfortably anymore." Tom scoffed. "This is ridiculous." "No," I said, my voice shaking now, but still steady. "What's ridiculous is pretending this house is normal." Sarah stepped between us, but not in the way I expected. She looked at me, not Tom, and said, "Mom, you're overreacting." Again I blinked. "You're siding with him?" "I'm not siding," she said, "but you always escalate things. You see shadows where there aren't any." Behind her, Lily was trembling. Tom ran a hand through his hair, the mask back on. "This is exactly what I mean. You come into our house, and suddenly everyone's walking on eggshells." "Maybe because they're afraid of stepping on a landmine," I snapped. He pointed a finger at me. "You want to help? Then stay out of things you don't understand." I looked past him. Lily's eyes met mine. I nodded once, small, subtle, just enough. That night, while Sarah and Tom were watching TV downstairs and the kids were in their rooms, I took my notes. I gathered the drawings Lily had slipped under my door. I placed them all in a manila folder. Then I pulled out my phone and found the number I never thought I'd use. Child Protective Services. No hesitation. No second guessing. "I'd like to report a case," I said. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I wasn't just someone's mother. I was someone's shield. The woman on the phone had a calm voice, measured, professional. She asked me questions I'd never imagined answering. Not about my life, but about someone else's. About Lily, about Tom, about Sarah. I answered every one. I described the drawings, the bruises I'd seen last spring, that I now understood differently. The flinching, the silence, the things said in whispers when no one was listening. By the end of the call, my hands were damp with sweat. "We'll send someone out within 24 hours, the woman said. "If there's an immediate danger, call the police." I almost told her there already was, but I just said, "Thank you." I slept in my clothes that night. I kept the folder on the nightstand, my cell phone charged and ready. Every creak in the hallway sent my nerves humming. The next morning, I was in the kitchen early. The sun had barely touched the backyard fence. I poured coffee with shaking hands and watched the clock. At 7, I heard movement upstairs. Light steps, Lily. Then heavier ones, Tom. A door creaked. I froze. Then I heard it. A crash, not loud, controlled, like something small hitting drywall. A voice, sharp and guttural. "You think I don't know what you're doing?" Another crash, then Lily's voice, high and panicked. I didn't say anything. I didn't remember standing up. I didn't remember crossing the hall or climbing the stairs, but I was there suddenly, outside Lily's room, heart pounding like a drum in a flood. He was inside. The door was open. He had her by the arm, not hitting, not yet, but close. His grip was white-knuckled. Her shoulders hunched like she was trying to disappear. And then he pulled her forward. That's when I saw red. "Get your hands off her," I shouted. My voice didn't sound like mine. It sounded bigger. Tom turned, startled, just enough. Lily jerked back. I rushed in, stepped between them, my arms out. "You lay a hand on her again," I said, "and I swear to God." He didn't let me finish. His hand moved fast, open palm, not a fist. But it landed, hard, right across my left cheek. The kind of blow that stings before it registers. I stumbled, hit the wall with my shoulder. The hallway tilted. Silence. Lily screamed. Sarah came running. "What the hell is going on?" She saw me first, the mark already blooming red. Then Tom, breathing heavy, still poised like he wasn't sure whether to apologize or double down. Then she looked at Lily, crying, shaking. Her sweater pulled down one shoulder, her skin red where his hand had gripped too tight. And what did Sarah say? "You just had to interfere, didn't you, Mom?" That was it. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "Tom, what have you done?" Just that. Like I was the one who broke something, not the one who caught the blow. I stood up slowly, my back screaming, my cheek throbbing. I looked her dead in the eye. "You're no better than him." Tom muttered something under his breath. Defensive, angry, cowardly. I didn't hear it. I pulled Lily gently behind me, shielding her again. She clung to my sleeve, like a child, like she had every right to. Then I walked her down the stairs, step by step, past Sarah, who didn't move, past Tom, who didn't apologize, past Jacob, who'd come out of his room, blinking like he didn't understand why the world had tilted. I grabbed my phone from the counter and called the police. No hesitation. Emergency? The dispatcher asked. Yes, I said. My granddaughter and I are in immediate danger. Within 15 minutes, the sirens wailed down the street. When the squad car pulled up and the officers stepped out, I didn't flinch. I stood on the porch with Lily beside me, my face still burning from the slap, her hand still holding mine like a lifeline. They asked questions. I answered, calm, factual. I showed them the folder, the drawings, my notes. I let them take photos of my face. I let them speak with Lily. She didn't hold back. Not anymore. Tom stood in the doorway, arms crossed, trying to look composed. They cuffed him anyway. Not dramatic, not loud, just efficient. Sarah followed them outside, shouting something about mistakes and misunderstandings, and how I'd always hated Tom. The officers didn't even turn their heads. I was busy kneeling in front of Lily. You're safe, I said. You hear me? He doesn't get to touch you again. Her lips quivered. She nodded. Then she threw her arms around me and whispered, I knew you'd stop him. I didn't know how, but I knew I held her like she was made of glass. Behind us, Sarah was still yelling. I didn't care. The world could burn for all I cared. Because my granddaughter, my sweet, quiet, strong girl, had finally been heard. The house emptied fast. Tom was gone in the back of the cruiser, flanked by 2 officers who didn't say much, just the usual. He'll be processed at the station and will follow up with you directly. They gave me a business card, crisp and white. I tucked it into my sweater pocket with trembling fingers. Sarah stood on the porch, arms folded so tight across her chest, it looked like she was holding herself together by force. You don't know what you've done, she said, voice low, venomous. I know exactly what I've done, I replied. I've stopped pretending. Inside, the house felt hollow, like it had exhaled something it had been choking on for years. Lily sat at the kitchen table, her arms around her middle, like she was trying to keep herself small. Her hair hung in her face. She didn't speak. Jacob hovered nearby, clutching the remote from the living room like it was a security blanket. He didn't ask questions, but his eyes, wide and round, flicked back and forth between us, searching for signs of what came next. The officers had called in a social worker from Child Protective Services, a young woman named Michelle with tight curls and a voice like chamomile tea. She arrived with a clipboard and soft shoes that didn't make a sound on the hardwood. She talked to Lily first, kneeling beside her, not pushing, not pressing, just listening. Then she turned to me. Do you feel safe remaining in the home tonight? No, I said, but we don't have a choice yet. Michelle nodded. We'll be petitioning for emergency removal from the parents. Based on the officer's reports and your documentation, we'll recommend the children be placed temporarily with you. Temporarily? I asked. It's the first step, she said gently. But given the evidence, a judge will likely approve longer-term guardianship soon. Lily's eyes lifted. She looked at me like someone seeing land after days lost at sea. You'd want me? She asked, almost a whisper. My heart shattered and swelled all at once. Of course I want you, I said, my throat tight. "You're mine." Later that afternoon, a second CPS worker arrived to speak with Jacob. He was quieter than Lily, more cautious. He answered questions in short nods and barely their words. When asked if he ever felt scared at home, he hesitated, looked over at Sarah, who was pacing the hallway like a caged animal. Then he looked at me. "With her, it feels better," he said simply. "Calmer." I don't know what broke Sarah more, that or the silence that followed. She didn't fight that night. She didn't scream. She just sat on the couch, arms limp, as Michelle explained the emergency custody arrangement. "You'll have supervised visitation only," she said, "pending the court hearing." "I was just trying to hold this family together," Sarah muttered. "No," I said, "you were trying to hold your silence together." And it broke everything around it. Lily packed her things quietly. Jacob didn't pack at all. He just took his favorite stuffed dinosaur and followed me out to the car like he'd already decided. Back at my little house, the one-bedroom cottage I'd lived in since Walter died, everything felt too small and too quiet. But Lily didn't complain. She helped Jacob find his pajamas. They both fell asleep in the pull-out bed in the living room, curled together like kids who'd braced for storms and found a roof that finally held. The next morning, I brewed coffee before the sun rose. My hands still shook. My cheek was bruised, blooming purple like shame made visible. But when I turned around, Lily was in the kitchen doorway. "Do you think the judge will let me stay with you?" she asked. "I think the judge will listen," I said, "and I'll fight like hell to make sure you're heard." She nodded. She poured herself a cup of tea. Then, after a long silence, she said, "You didn't have to do all this." "I did," I replied, "because no one else would." She didn't cry. She didn't hug me. She just sat down across from me at the table, pulled her sketch pad from her backpack, and started to draw. Not a girl in a corner, not a shadow in a doorway, just two hands, one wrinkled, one young, holding tight. The court date came faster than I expected. Maybe it was the weight of the bruises, the police report, or the way Lily didn't flinch under questioning anymore. Maybe the system saw what I had, a girl ready to be rescued, not just protected. Whatever it was, the wheels of justice, usually so slow and creaky, turned with surprising speed. The courtroom was beige and cold, like someone had drained all the warmth out of it to keep emotions in check. Sarah sat across the aisle, hair neatly curled, face powdered pale, but her eyes, those were the giveaway, red-rimmed, wide. She didn't look at Lily, didn't look at me. Tom wasn't there. His lawyer had advised him to stay quiet and stay gone. There were charges pending, assault, child endangerment. He'd likely get a plea deal, but not before the custody case was settled. The judge, an older black woman with a voice that cut through nonsense like a hot knife, asked for statements. Lily stood up on her own. No one pushed her. No one coached her. She looked the judge in the eye and said, "I'm not safe with them, but I am safe with her." She pointed to me just once. The courtroom didn't erupt. There were no gasps, no dramatic gavel slams, just a quiet pause. And then the judge nodded and said, "Noted." Later, when it was my turn, I told them everything. From the first whisper at the Thanksgiving table to the slap I took to stop what was coming. I told them I was not just a grandmother trying to help, but a witness to what silence does when it's allowed to grow roots. The judge listened, really listened. Then she ruled. Sole custody to me, indefinitely, with full parental rights pending formal petition. Sarah broke down, not loud, not angry, just crumbled. Like her bones gave out under the weight of everything she'd refused to see. They led her out gently. She didn't fight. Lily didn't cheer. She didn't smile. She just reached for my hand and squeezed. Jacob was quieter through it all. He sat in the hallway with a school tablet and his dinosaur, waiting for the grown-ups to stop arguing about where he belonged. When I told him we were going home, that it was our home now, he nodded and said, "Can we get a dog?" I laughed for the first time in weeks. "Yes, baby, we'll get a dog." Back at the house, life didn't become a fairy tale. Bills still showed up. My back still hurt in the mornings. The water heater groaned every time I ran a bath. But there was laughter now, actual laughter. Lily started wearing color again, soft purples and blues. She joined the art club at school. I hung her drawings in the hallway, not the ones from before, the new ones, the ones with gardens and light. Jacob stopped sleeping with the hallway light on. He started calling the guest room his room. We bought bunk beds, even though he didn't need them. "One for me, one for the dog," he said. Every morning I packed lunches with too many snacks and stood on the porch while they caught the bus. I waved, I worried, I hoped, and every night when the dishes were done and the house had gone soft with quiet, I sat in my chair, blanket on my knees, and gave thanks, not to any god in particular, but to the part of me that didn't stay silent. Because I almost did. For too long, I thought my job was to stay out of the way, to keep the peace, to hold my tongue. But Lily taught me better, and Jacob reminded me, family isn't about who you're born to. It's about who shows up when it matters, who stays when things get dark, who fights even when their hands shake. And sometimes, family starts over.